Hi folks, I'm going to do part two of this because I've just been for a dog walk, and during that time there's things that occurred to me that I thought was worth covering. The first thing is the title. It's called In Plain Sight. Now it just occurred to me that this is very suggestive of the Jimmy Savile. They're trying to connect him, I'd argue, to something seedy like Jimmy Savile. Now, with Jimmy Savile, it was in plain sight because the way he got away with things was he basically walked around telling people, um, saying, "Oh, I like little, girls and things." And because he was saying it, it sort of covered up. It was a clever way of covering up the fact of what he was up to. And it's this suggestion that Russell Bland is the same type of person. Indeed, we later on in the documentary. By the way, I think this documentary is just some. It's. I've seen people do better. I've seen conspiracy theorists do better documentaries, I'd argue, on the internet, on YouTube, where people have just extracted a sentence and blown it up into something it's not. Someone said or something, and they've gone, "Oh, this is an evidence," and blah blah blah. Where they've probably spent hours and hours looking for a single sentence of what someone said. Anyway, but later on in the documentary, halfway I think it is, or near the end, they show an interview where not in, well, is it an interview? It looks like a radio call where he's interviewing Jimmy Savile, is Russell Brand, and making jokes, saying I've got a presenter who can be naked for you or something. This is a shock joke. Clearly out of context it was shown, because we've got to remember that no one knew about Jimmy Savile. The accusations didn't come to light till after Jimmy Savile died. Now I know some people claim that they're all experts. All these people have distanced themselves, saying, "Oh yes, I was always suspicious of him." I heard that over and over once he died. I don't think I suspect they weren't suspicious. I mean, he for those who don't know, he wasn't far from where my nan lived, and where my nan lived, there was a fish and chip shop he was famously going into, and the staff used to adore him. They always said, "Oh, he's been in," and but after he died and they found out, same people actually saying, "Oh no, we all knew." I always find it interesting how people know. They all make out they knew these things after his death. I don't believe a word of it. I think that people did support him when he was alive. Anyway, um, but yeah, there seems to be this sort of trying to connect. I thought it was very, very interesting that in the title. Now, what also occurs to me is that I do feel, because at the end of this YouTube vid, there's there's an interesting bit where they talk about him being on YouTube and being interviewed. Now, again, as I said, my suspicion is one, it's to try and close his YouTube and other social media down, to discredit him, and also to put people off interviewing him, so people distance themselves. And we've seen this tactic time and time and time, haven't we, with many other famous people. I think that's what they're trying to do with Andrew Tate. If in the manner that if you support Andrew Tate, you must be some sort of strange person. Why are you supporting him? They've done this with what's her name? There's that lady who used to be on Big Brother. Quite a few people will see this. It seems to be time after time what the tactic is to discredit people, and therefore, try and put people off from supporting them, to shut them down so they don't have any platforms and people don't interview them. I'll be perfectly honest. If I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, that's what I feel is going on here. But there's also a few other things. Oh, by the way, the reason why Darky Jimmy Savile got away with things was because during the 70s, 80s, 90s, I'd say the media actually was fairly open with seeing. They'd show pictures or videos of very young girls stood outside waiting for the pop star with the impression they were going in for something seedy, and it was all acceptable with the media. Also, at the same time, don't forget that there was a certain the left wing. I always remember this quite particularly. The left wing, especially feminists, female feminists, were actually for quite a period of time pushing this idea that it was perfectly acceptable for young girls to go have sex with men, even if they were a lot older. I was told this at school by 3 or 4 female teachers who were feminists. They told us off for criticising a girl who was actually underage. She was about 13, 14, and she was dating, I think it was about 18 or 19, this bloke. And it was a bloke. He was a big built bloke. But of course, they was told off as criticising us, saying this is wrong. I mean, we thought it was wrong at the time. It seemed rather odd, but we was told no, it was a feminist thing because she's only doing what was told that she's only doing what men have done for years. Had nookie with lots of people, and this is somehow, apparently, we were told this is some sort of progressive thing. So I would argue that the left have actually pushed that, and that's how people got away with it. But there you go, that's just a thought for the day. But moving on, there was something quite interesting. On the first article, so I don't know if you can hear the dogs in the background, they're driving me nuts, sorry. Where she's talking about the first person who makes the accusation, who's, as I've stated in the other one, she claims she's dating him and they've had sex consensually. And she mentions in this one, she said where she's claimed she's raped is she goes to have a test at a rape centre, I presume an AIDS test. Now, this is interesting because what they present as the evidence to his guilt is a text. Now, the text is quite interesting when we read it. I'll see if I can bring it up if the computer's playing a bit dodgy. The text says, "I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person." Now, that isn't a confession to anything. We don't know what that's about. But what's then revealing is she then replies, and the Channel 4 shows this for a split second and then fades it, which is fascinating. I mean, it's literally on there. All the other texts have is on for a while, but this one text is almost deleted on purpose if you watch it. The full text is, "You've scared the shit out of me. You're right, I'm a lovely person, and for you to take advantage of me like that is unacceptable. You have made a problem, you need... Sorry, hang on. You have a problem, you need help. It's dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when that glazed look comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to get myself tested? Last time you asked me condom or no condom. When I say condom, that doesn't mean it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride, PRI, myself on being safe and trying to make the right decisions." Now, this is interesting because it sounds like very much that what's happened is he's not used a condom. Now, obviously, this is technical. You could argue it would be probably depending what state you're in or what country, it may or may not be deemed an assault sexually. I think they have changed the law, but it changes the narrative somewhat. Is that's what's happened? He's not used a condom and she's got annoyed. Because nowhere in that text is she saying, "You forced me into sex." It's saying, you've had sex with me, and I wanted a condom used. That's an interesting one. And what makes it more interesting is, sorry, the dog's in the background, is then this instantly, and it's only on the screen, literally a split second, they delete all the text to, "Do you know how scary you are when that glaze comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no." That's interesting because they've taken that and changed the narrative in some ways. They've taken that could be argued they're taking it out of context. on purpose, and that's what they remain on screen, so that's what you read. Now, that's not, when you read it in the full context, and that makes me suspect this is why they've edited it, it changes the context somewhat. Again, this whole video, I mean, one of the things that I find interesting is they claim they've spent a year investigating, and the ones that are making accusations of their interviews very short. There's so little information, it's rather strange. Again, we don't know how long these women have been dating. In all 4 cases, I believe they all say that it's consensual sex. And therefore, we don't know. I don't think it says, did they carry on dating? I mean, this reply suggests this woman's still, in contact with him. It's not saying get lost, I don't want to see you again. It's strange that she, that's the reply. Again, it sounds to me, reading between the lines, what's happened is he's not used a condom, and that's not what she wanted. She wanted a condom being used. But again, we don't know how long. In all 4 cases, we don't know how long they've gone out for. Did they carry on seeing each other after these cases they've stated happened? What they broke up for? Did he see other women around them? Have they got jealous? There's so many things here. The fact that they're only on screen a few minutes, and in most cases they're actors, or actresses should I say. And again, we don't know if they've edited things, because like we've just seen with this text, even the texts show they've quickly edited it down to take everything out, I'd argue, out of context, which makes me think, is everything else out of context? And is this the best they can do within a year? It's not very good. I mean, like I said, the bulk of it is just showing his old interviews, where he's claimed, I think in one he says he's got a thing for spitting on women now. I don't know if that's his thing or he's just saying it for comical effect. We have to be careful, because sometimes when we have people on stage, sometimes they are an act, not the person. So it could be Russell Brand on stage is not the real Russell Brand. He might say things that he's not really believing in. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, for me, the big bit, you see, to me, it's not particularly very well produced, this. It does feel like a YouTube vid, to be honest, put together by some amateur. It does feel like they've done a year and this is best they can do. And like I said, at the end, it was interesting. For me, the impression I'd have interpreted is they are trying to shut his YouTube channel down, and they're trying to make him discredited. So, because that's the effect. I mean, even if this goes nowhere, it's there'll be people who now will be going, oh, he's a bad and he's a wrong un. And then if you ever talk about, you see, the idea will be now is that if anyone says, oh, Russell Brand covered this topic, they'll say, oh, why are you listening to him? Are you a wrong un? Are you a wrong un? Like they do with all the others. What is it? Is it a name, Kate? I forget. There's so many people. I mean, it seems to be person after person they're trying to discredit. And that's quite disturbing, I'd say, to the state that I think there'll be, you won't be able to say, oh, this person I listen to, because you'll be told, oh, well, that person's a wrong un, so, we don't listen. I mean, this whole point, supposing there's another lockdown, that's, as I've said, I never saw any use of the lockdowns. I believe more people died because of them. I also, I don't believe, we know for a fact that non-medical grade masks, which everyone was telling us to wear, have no effect on you. They're not N95 or N99. The BBC even did an article, and in another link, I've posted the link, so it's there. Now, I could imagine, say another lockdown happens, will this be used if, say, someone like Russell Brand says, oh, well, I don't agree with it, and brings in some experts. Now, first of all, will people be willing to go on his show? Because that's the first thing. Once you've discredited somebody, it'll be like, well, will people want to be associated with him? That'll be a clever little tactic. But the second one will be, people just shut that down. So they'll say, well, I watched Russell Brand's show and he had an expert on, and the reply will be, oh, why are you watching him? We've discredited him, so all the views he has, even if they're correct, must by definition be wrong. And that's the way you do things, folks. Most telling. I thought, the way this has been put together, these sly suggestions, is rather. I mean, putting that interview in with, I've forgotten his name, the DJ. Oh, God, I've just talked about him, haven't I, folks? Jim'll Fix It, that's it. Sorry, is it Jimmy Savile? Sorry, I always think of him as Jim'll Fix It. Jimmy Savile. That was a rather, well, I'd say underhanded. Is that the best? That, I think, it shows the state of this documentary. Because that'd be like anybody who's ever spoke to anyone who's done an interview with Jimmy Savile. You could then, is that what they're going to do? Oh, it's slimy. It's slimy. That wasn't a very, I'd be ashamed if I'd done a documentary like this. And I'm an amateur. I mean, I wouldn't put something like that out. I'd be embarrassed to death. I'd be humiliated. And I think quite rightly people would mock me and say, that's terrible. And yet this is Channel 4. Anyway, we'll see, folks. But yeah, I thought I'd do part 2. I mean, like I said, the title is rather suggestive to have that in plain sight. And in fact, the cover picture they use, where it looks like they've even slightly altered the angle of it to make him look dodgy. They don't use the probably the most horrible pitch on purpose. I mean, this is all just the way it's edited and everything is really. It's a hatchet. I mean, people have said it's a hatchet job. I think the way it's edited. I don't think. I mean, I can put my tinfoil hat on and say it's a hatchet job, but to be perfectly honest, just as an observation, it does seem rather poor as a hatchet job. Anyway, folks, worth the thought, isn't it? All right then, bye.